Good afternoon and welcome to this briefing by the Jerusalem Press Club. I am Jonathan Beck, Director of Content. The Israeli strike against Iran by now seems almost like old news, with a busy morning where we had a truck ramming attack in Glilot with more than 40 casualties and also some fallen soldiers in Lebanon over the weekend in two separate incidents. But this briefing will discuss Israel's attack against Iran over the weekend between Friday and Saturday morning. We're now about 48 hours after the strike, and still a lot about it is unknown. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, just about an hour and a half ago, addressed the strike in his talk with the government in the weekly meeting. Our guest today to shed light on this attack is retired Navy Commander Dr. Eyal Pinko. Dr. Pinko served in the Israeli Navy and intelligence for more than 30 years. For over 12 years, he was head of development programs and senior systems engineer for weapon systems and missiles. And an additional 6 years, he served as a unit commander in naval intelligence, where he focused on maritime terrorism, weapons proliferation, and national security. After that, he served as 5 years as head of an operational intelligence division at the PMO, the Prime Minister's office. After retiring in 2017 from the military, he was senior consultant at the Israeli National Cyber Directorate, dealing with cyber threats against Israel. Good morning. And of course, Mr. Pinko is a senior research fellow at the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies and a researcher there. The center is a part of the Bar Ilan University. Hello, Dr. Pinko. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
So I would like to first of all let's go over what was attacked in Iran. Reports from foreign media say that S-300 batteries were struck. Apparently, according to some sources quoted in the Wall Street Journal, Iran now has no more S-300 batteries. And also a factory or factories producing solid rocket fuel, as well as a strike against a secret, apparently not so secret, if Israel struck it in Parchin, a base. Can you tell us what is the strategic and tactical significance of these attacks on these targets?
Yeah, so first, thank you very much. If we look on the targets that were attacked, as you said, first, the aerial defense infrastructure was taken out, and basically the best systems, which are 4 units of S-300, according to different media reports, were taken out. This is a significant strategic achievement in which will allow the Israeli Air Force to strike again if any need will rise or if there will be any plan to re-attack Iran. So this is the first issue. The second issue regarding the solid fuel motors. This is a factory that produces all the motors for the ballistic missiles and the satellite launchers in Iran. It's the same factory, it's the same platforms, which means that for now, for not less than a year, Iran will not be able to produce or reproduce motors for its ballistic missiles. As we all remember, 2 months ago, Iran launched 200 ballistic missiles against Israel. This was the second attack after the last one during April or May, if I remember correctly. It means that this is a huge impact on the ballistic missiles industry of Iran. It will take Iran to revive from this kind of strike. In the best case scenario for Iran, of course, it's 1 year, but usually it's 1.5 years until full recovery. So this is for Israel, it's a very important strategic achievement. The other thing is the attack of the secret drone facility, as you said, in Farachin. I think it's not a big achievement, but just showing the Iranian that they are exposed, intelligence exposure of their activities. Nevertheless, Iran has more facilities to produce those drones. Those drones, by the way, are being used also by the Houthis in Yemen, by the Russians in Ukraine. It's a huge issue over here, but this is more than a sign than really a strategic achievement in this strike. In a summary, the strike is showing the Iranian, the Israeli Air Force capabilities, the IDF capabilities. Of course, everything is being intelligence driven. It's not only the Air Force, but it's showing that we have amazing intelligence capabilities. And in the Israeli public, is most of it's not satisfied from the results of the attack, even though showing the flag, as we call it in the Navy, of the capabilities and with other the strategic achievements, which I said before. I think this is a very good achievement for Israel.
Okay, so before we get to the perceptions of how Israelis and perhaps how Iran portrays it and how it's being portrayed in the media, can you say about those two elements? First of all, I heard on the radio this morning on the way to work that those solid fuel machines or whatever it is that makes them, those they call them blenders.
Yeah.
They said these are made in China and it will take about a year and a half to replace. So let's set this number aside for a second. Can you tell us about the S300? How fungible are these systems? Because I remember a few years ago, Israel was very scared of them getting to Syria, and I also remember that it was a big deal for Russia to send them. So can Russia replenish Iran relatively quickly or not so much?
Sorry. First, as you said, let's start with the explosive. Everything is coming from China. The TNT and the powder, which is the base of producing the motors for the ballistic missiles. And after that, it's a production line with 5 or 6 stations, including compounds and mixers. And it's a long process. In order to replace it, China needs only to produce the machines and to integrate it back. It's a long process of the production of the machine, of the integration, but it's 1.5 years. This is what it needs to go back. Regarding the S-300, those systems are crucial for all the countries that holds it, even to Russia. With the Ukrainian massive attack now, Ukraine is using F-16 aircrafts and other aircrafts attacking inside Russia. So those systems are even very dear to Russia, not only for Iran. Iran is suffering for many years, from the 80s. It's suffering from its incapacity of protecting its aerial domain. Iran is using, since the 70s, using very old American systems like the Hawk system. They're trying to revive it and maintain it alive, not in a huge successful way. So really the Russian system, the S-300, were additional, an important part of the aerial defense, especially defending the Tehran area. So now after the destruction of those missiles, it will be very hard for Iran to revive and to go back into its capabilities. For what I see now, there are two major capabilities of Iran to revive its aerial defense. The first one is through Russia, which is problem. As I said, Russia needs to defend itself, and the way to now to bring more S-300 from Russia, it will be a huge challenge. But unfortunately, I think that Iran has the other strategic partner, which is China, which China can send systems to Iran. It can be pretty much immediately. I mean, it can be an issue of few weeks or few months, but it's a short time. So it's a matter of decision if between Iran and China if to reinforce the aerial defense. Until it will be, Iran is exposed. The aerial defense of Iran is totally exposed. And this is for now.
Okay, so how long, basically Israel now kind of has, an open field if it wants to attack, I don't know, the oil fields, the nuclear facilities, etc. So this, two things. First of all, this is a limited opportunity. So how long is this going to last in your assessment? And the second thing is, do you think the attack on Friday was a preliminary attack, paving the road for a future more significant strike on the nuclear facilities, perhaps even after the U.S. election?
Yeah. Look, I think you mentioned here a very important thing, which is the U.S. election. I believe that Israel will not go into more escalation before the election. After the election and setting the new government somewhere in January, as we say, God is great until then, and let's see what will happen. But in the short term, I don't believe that Israel will reattack Iran. I think the signaling Iran was pretty good and pretty enough for Iran, even though there are some kind of media reports about Iran that wants to retaliate and will not go through that in peace and quiet. I do assess that Iran will not retaliate this attack. So it means that for the next few months we have a window of opportunity for both sides. And I do believe that in order not to go to escalation, Iran will not retaliate. Also, Biden said, I think it was yesterday, that he understands and he wills that nothing will go further from this attack. So I believe we will, even though the pavement was already made for additional attacks, I do believe it will not go there in the next few months.
Okay, thank you for this. I have a follow-up question from a reporter on the aerial defense batteries. First of all, is it possible that Russia will replace the damaged S-300 with the S-400? I don't think it's likely, but I'm asking you anyway. And also, what is the likelihood of Pyongyang, of North Korea, taking over Russia's role in arming Iran with aerial defense systems? And also, I would like to ask you, would China take Russia's place in this respect?
Thank you. First, Russia, I will say that differently, sorry. There is as we call it in Israel, the evil axis, which is Russia, Iran, and China. They are playing the roles together. We have some kind of very strange relationships with China. It's not the issue for today, but China is a strategic partner of Iran. And China helped Iran with many capabilities with the nuclear program, with the cruise missiles and ballistic missiles program for many years. It started in the late 90s. So they have a long existing strategic relationships between all sides. And as China, helped Iran with arming itself with very advanced technologies, including cyber, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, radars, etc. I do believe that there is a chance that Iran will replace the S-300 Russian made with their own system. Just to remember, China has its own S-300. They took the Russian system, they duplicated it, and they have their own model of it. So I think it's high probability that we will see Chinese systems, aerial defense systems on the Iranian soil. As for North Korea, there is North Korea, Pakistan, they are part of this axis. So there is still cooperation, very good cooperation between North Korea and Iran. We even see North Korean weapons in the Gaza Strip and in Hezbollah. So it's not such a far-fetched not to see any kind of North Korean help with Iran. Nevertheless, when we speak about aerial defense, this is not the best or the strongest part of North Korean capabilities. So I believe that the aerial defense will come from China at the end of the day.
Is there any reason to, I mean, the IDF spokesperson, at least, I don't know if it's to kind of make up for what was not reported about the strike, but he made an emphasis about the fact that all our pilots, all the Israeli pilots, returned safely. Is the Chinese system better, more of a threat to the IDF? Because the Russian system, I remember years ago, it was really considered the fear of the IAF until they trained against, I think, a Greek system, a friendly country that owns the S-300, and they saw that it can be taken out. So
Yeah.
this has always been made a big deal of, and could you say about?
Yeah. Okay. So it's also always a matter who is upgrading first its own systems. Because when a new threat is coming to the arena, this is a global issue, it's not an Israeli one. When a new threat is coming to the arena, the opposite side starts to investigate, to analyze the capabilities and find a doctrine how to overcome, doctrine and technologies like electronic warfare, how to overcome those kind of threats. And then the other side understand there is an upgrade from the other side of electronic warfare, so he upgrades the system. So it's always a matter who will upgrade first its systems. As you mentioned in the beginning, Israel and the US and NATO was very bothered from the presence of S-300, and S-400 in Iran, in China, in Ukraine. But as you see now, probably Israel made its capabilities with electronic warfare in order to overcome this obstacle. Then the Chinese systems are based on Russian systems. What kind of changes, upgrades they did in the system, I don't know, but probably they did. So Israel, the US, NATO will have to watch the system, to analyze it, and to find solution how to overcome those systems as well.
Okay, understand. Now for a more kind of a diplomatic question, do you think the choice of targets from Israel, apart from all the other considerations of not upsetting Iran too much, allowing Iran to retaliate, was influenced by the Biden administration instructing Israel not to target nuclear sites or oil facilities? I mean, was this kind of a bear hug and Israel wanted to do more, but was prevented from doing more by the US?
I think it's yesterday or today's morning, I don't remember when was it. Benjamin Netanyahu introduced some kind of statement saying that Israel attacked those sites because it's fit to the Israeli needs, strategy, and war goals. Saying that there was no pressure, and if there was pressure, Israel didn't act according to the US pressure. I do believe that Israel did act with or according to the US pressure, not to escalate the situation. It's obvious that Israel doesn't want any kind of escalation with Iran as well. Okay, so this is part of that. So I think everything is a good match between Israeli will not to open here a very massive front and not to go to larger escalation with Iran, to stay only in this dimension of this area. And of course, also not to upset Biden and Harris too much. I cannot hear you, you're muted.
Sorry, I was muted. Instead, I have another question from the Christian Science Monitor. It relates to today, is the first Remembrance Day of the October 7 attack last year, basically the first day after Simchat Torah. Now, a year after that, Hamas, we can say, is pretty much dismantled. Hezbollah has been pushed back significantly, and this Iran attack, which was waited for, is let's say it's behind us for now. Do you think the government today can take a more persistent diplomatic path to end the war? I ask this also in relation to the fact that Defense Minister Gallant who is, the master of ceremonies of the military solution, said, not everything can be resolved militarily. Today at Mount Herzl, he said, we will need to make some hard compromises.
Yeah, I don't know what Gallant meant in his saying, but I think we have a huge challenge now is to bring back the hostages. And even in the last weekend, the head of the Mossad, David Barnea, and her team went to Doha, to Qatar, for negotiation with Egypt and with Qatar. And I think that there was also the head of the CIA over there as well. But there is a problem in this story because there is no Hamas near the table. So we are doing negotiations between ourselves, and there is no Hamas in the room. And of course, Qatar and Hamas are pretty much, on the same side, even though Qatar wants to show that it's the nicest guy in the room, but basically it's the same guy or the same organization. And I'm sorry for not being really politically correct with that. So we want to release the hostages. So until there will be any kind of agreement how to move forward and to bring back the hostages, I do believe that the war will continue. And and now I think, as you mentioned, we are in a relatively good situation in which the backbone of Hamas was eliminated. 30 to 40% of its military power were eliminated. Hamas became now like guerrilla teams without any kind of command and control structure. Hezbollah as well, still struggling with what is happening. So we're in a good way to move forward with the aid of military pressure to press Qatar and Egypt to press Hamas to release the hostages. So this is I think the let's call it the business model or the diplomatic model of this area. And until no agreement will be made about releasing the hostages, I don't see any kind of stopping the war.
Okay, I understand. Understand there's an Egyptian initiative now from a new intelligence chief to do a kind of mini hostage deal. We'll see how this works. We've run out of time, but I want to ask one last question. Going back to the Iranian attack, was this Israeli strike capable in delaying in any way at all Iran's capability of so-called breaking out to a nuclear bomb? And if so, for how long? And I would like to add my own part to the question: is Iran still before that point of breaking out, actually?
Yeah, I think there is in Iran first Khamenei, the leader, the supreme leader, is 85. He has cancer. They are saying that he is about to die, and the Iranian regime inside itself is dealing now with huge political disagreements and race who will be the processor of Khamenei. So I think that the regime now is a little bit in a shaky situation. This is one. Secondly, for the nuclear capabilities, I believe and assess, based on many types of information gathering, that Iran has already the nuclear capability. Iran is playing that it has no, but if you look on reports that were published by CIA, by the Congress, by the International Agency for Nuclear Power, 2 years ago, Iran already had made its steps towards enrichment and the highest level of 90% of uranium. So from this aspect, Iran has higher enrichment uranium materials. From the other parts of this program, Iran has ballistic and cruise missiles that can go to Israel with nuclear warhead, and we saw it in the last attacks. It was not with nuclear warhead, but the missiles capabilities were proven. And last but not least, if you remember when Netanyahu presented the operation in Iran 3 or 4 years ago, what we call the folders presentation, over there, Netanyahu presented the weapon system of the nuclear capabilities, which is the system that enables the nuclear reaction. So if we'll take those three elements of weapon, the platform, the weapon system, and the enrichment of the uranium, Iran has it at least 3 years, at least. And meanwhile, Iran is enjoying of playing that it doesn't have those capabilities, because it let Iran to be in a better place with the diplomatic and in the diplomatic arena. So I do believe they have it, and they just use it in order to get better, negotiations on the sanctions and other thing. And it's a matter of decision if they will present it to the world, or as we say, how they say now, it will take us a week and we will be there. So that's the reality as I see it.
I understand. Okay, thank you for this. So Iran is essentially a nuclear threshold state, according to what you say. Now, just one final question. Israel struck the solid fuel factories, but the arsenal of rockets that is ready to go is intact, right?
As I understand, absolutely, yes.
Do we have any assessments of how many they have?
According to different research centers all over Europe and in other places, Iran has a few hundreds of missiles, nearly 1,000. Taking into consideration they fired something like 400 until now towards Israel, I will assess that they have a few hundreds more, and this is not with taking into consideration what Hezbollah has.
I understand. Okay, thank you for this calming briefing.
Thank you.
We will, we will continue the war, and we'll meet again next time we have discuss. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Pinko. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Bye bye.